Well, it looks like the river level is at about the same point as it was yesterday, and they say that it's going to drop below flood stage by this evening. Now, I had a few people point out to me that those markings under the bridge are probably for clearance under the bridge. So I had to respond with, well then, I guess it's a good thing I'm a retired truck driver, since I did have to know about bridge clearance. Anyway, I'm out and about today. I'm going to drive around to, if I have the time, 4 or 5 of the points where I launch my kayak. So I can just take a look and see what the ramps are like at this high flood stage level. And I have my camera with me. So let's check that out. This little river right here is usually 100 to 120 feet across. The ramp, which is behind me, is maybe 20 to 25 feet from the top down to the water. That tree out there is about even with the end of the ramp. So that gives you an idea of just how high this is right now. Now, if I wanted to, I actually could launch the kayak from here. This is some pretty calm water, and the ramp is clean. I was here a couple of weeks ago, and I had to turn around because it was just mud. The water level was actually lower, and the ramp was coated with mud. But water level being higher, I actually could kayak here if I wanted to. So I'll have to check that out after the weekend, because I have plans for the weekend. On to the next stop. My second stop is a spot on the Osage River. Now, this one there is, looks like a good 50 feet of ramp to the water. But it's a very long ramp. It's a wider river. They have more bank here to allow for a ramp. So, yeah, and the bank is up quite a bit. But I've seen this particular ramp almost completely underwater at times. In fact, the last place that I was at, a year or two ago I was there, and the start of the access road leading to the boat ramp, which is about 15 feet higher, was underwater. It was actually out to the main road. Here, looking out, underneath this bridge, in the far distance, you can see a light pole that's actually underwater. And that is another river that comes into the Osage. I've kayaked up into that. And the Osage at this point, I can go in either direction. Problem is, when the water's this high, the current is much swifter, so it's harder paddling back. And if you're going to go downstream, unless you have an exit point below with another car, you have to paddle back, right? Yeah. So, on to the third stop. I'm at another access point on the Osage River, about 8 miles away as a crow flies. It's about 13 or 14 miles driving, and that was twisting, winding country roads behind farm equipment, so no shoulders, so it made for a longer drive. And yes, 8 miles in a straight line, but the river itself is probably 13, 14 miles too, with the bends that it has. I'll check that on the map when I get back. Of course, the water level is high here. It's the same river, and you can see trees along the shore are underwater, and yeah, this has about a half-mile road that winds its way into this access, a gravel road which parallels the river, and there have been times when that road itself has been underwater, so the water's been a good 10 or 15 feet higher. Right now there's only about 25 feet of ramp here, so there's quite a bit underwater. You can see that where that tree is overhanging there, that's actually short of the end of the ramp. The end of the ramp is way out there. Turkey vultures were flying by when I first got here. Really overcast sky, heavy clouds. I don't think there's any rain in the forecast though, but yeah, kind of impressive watching them fly by. Anyway, on to the next one, which is a smaller river again. My bad. This is one more spot on the Osage River. This was about a 12-minute drive, probably about 10 miles, maybe. Yeah. And if you look at the ramp here, which here there's about 30 or 40 feet of ramp, you can see how the water level has actually been up here at the top. You can see the silt along the ramp there. You can see how wet it is up in here. And that bridge abutment right there, that is usually just at the water's edge. Actually, I think it's out of the water normally. Yeah, this is another nice spot. Each of these last three spots, I've seen eagles at all of the spots actually. But yeah, I've seen eagles here. Look across the way, you can see trees hung up on trees that normally are not underwater. And now to that last spot, the smaller river. And it will be the same river that I was at earlier, probably 20 miles away as the stream wanders, probably only about 12 miles as a crow flies from the very first launch that I stopped at today. So off we go. Well, I'm back to the first river, not the first spot. This is about 12 miles away, and the way this river meanders, it's more like a creek. That's what I would call it. The way it meanders, it's probably a good 20 miles of river from here to where I was. It's far enough upstream that the water levels aren't real high. Now, as you can see here, I mean, look how much ramp there is. But you can see the mud all the way up there. That's how high it has been. So when the rains are heavy for several days, this fills right up. And obviously runs downstream to the Missouri River. If you look across, now right here, that rock out there is about 5 feet out. So just a little past that is where I'm used to the ramp usually being. So take that and another 5 to 10 feet on the other side, and it's only about 15 to 20 feet wider than what I'm used to. However, as you can see looking across, when the waters were up high, they washed out that bank. You can see how the bank is collapsed right down in, which has dropped this tree right into the river. So when the water level drops a little bit more, it'll be interesting kayaking past here. Now, with any of these bodies of water, once I launch, I can go in either direction. This particular one, I can only go about as far as that bend up there. It's about a quarter mile. And just around it, about 100 yards, when the water level is about like now, and maybe a little lower, what I'm used to, you can't get past it. It gets a little shallow. However, in that direction, I've gone a couple of miles. So, in fact, this direction back here, behind me, the shorter distance, that was where 2 years ago I turned my kayak over. A branch caught my life jacket, flipped me right over. The water was higher. I thought I could go through there. Hey, I can finally get downstream and check this out. Yeah, and a tree branch flipped me over. Anyway, I have right now driven, let's see, about 35 miles from that first launch point, from that river to the Osage, those 3 spots, and back to this river again, different spot. And in all, by the time I get home, I'll have driven 55 miles. Yeah, most of the country roads too. Anyway, hopefully within the next week or so, I can get out kayaking, at least by the end of the month, get my July kayak in. That very first spot that I went to, I said maybe next week. Well, I don't think so, because once that water level drops, then you're going to have mud, like this dried stuff right here. But you're going to have mud right at the water line. And it's, you know, I ended up sliding my car right into the river. Yep, anyway, there you go. More high water in Missouri. Ciao, folks. Vlog on.